Good morning, this is Debbie with AncestryandTravels.com. If you've been with me at all in any of my other tutorials, I've kind of shown you how to go in and get familiar a little bit here with Family Search. The thing I love about Family Search is that really honestly, they're the first site that really had, well, and still has free records for you to go in and look at. So they're a really good source for you to go and find your family history without having to spend money. Another thing that I like about them is that you can have your own family tree, so you can create your own family tree for free as well. So it's a really good site, especially for beginner genealogists, but it's also just, they've got a lot of other really good services. So once you get in and start getting more and more familiar with them, I suggest you go into the wiki. The wiki has lots of good information available for you. You can search by place, topic, guided research. They have a lot of good tutorials in here as well. When I first started doing genealogy, I relied on their tutorials a lot, and there's a lot of really good free information in here that teaches you how to search for your family. Now, one of the things that we're going to do today, I thought it would be fun to go in and look at tax records. Tax records are a very, I believe, underused but very vital record that you can use. So let's go into Ohio. You'll probably notice I go into Ohio a lot, but it's probably because it's the state that I know the best, because I've done my most of my research there. So it's something that I enjoy doing. And like I say, when you go in, let me go back and see how we put in Ohio, and then I hit update, and then it came up with these records. Now, there are tons and tons of records. All your censuses for Ohio, for the United States censuses, you can get them all right here. There's lots of different ways to search and family search. And as you start searching, you'll find the different things that make it easiest for you. I'm not going to go through the whole state of Ohio to find tax records right now. Right now, I'm going to go into Knox County, Ohio. I like going into, and that, to get there, sorry, I did that pretty fast. So you went into the United States of Ohio, and then places within the United States of Ohio is what I clicked. See how this says places within the states, Knox County, Ohio. That's how I got in here. So then what you've got is your taxation. This right here is going to give you the tax records. Tax records started around the 1816. One of the things that you'll notice if you have family that left somewhere after 1800, in the 1810 census, a lot of times, for example, Ohio was not in the 1810 census. I don't know if it's just they didn't go in there, because it was pretty wild. Our ancestors went into some pretty wild parts to start out their prospecting for places to live and their migration. And so a lot of times they couldn't get somebody to go in and do a census, so because it was too dangerous. So the tax records is going to be kind of the next thing that you'll have available. And again, like I say, it didn't start until 1816. So you kind of have a gap, depending on what research you're doing, between 1800 and 1816. That's a pretty big gap. Their kids can grow up by then. So it's a pretty wide gap. Let me tell you a little bit about these thumbnails. One of the things that I like about researching these is that I can kind of control my research. So this is going to tell you that they did the 1860 census. That's what this record right here is going to be. Now, if you'll look at each area, these little things, these are beginning and ends, these dark black things. So 1816 censuses are going to be just these pages right here. So if you don't want 1816, let's say you want to go down farther, you could just keep going down and you can kind of see the years, but I just go ahead and open these up. Now this says that it's 1814. That I find interesting. Let's go look and see here, because I am not sure that I believe that that's the 1814, but I guess it probably is. So let's look and see. I'm a little skeptical, sorry. I just have done a lot of research, and sometimes it's things that say that there's something, but they're really not necessarily so. So see right here it says 1819. So how about that, guys? I was right. So as they started doing the censuses, they started out with just the whole county, and then it started breaking up later into the townships, because there are lots of different townships within a county. Right here we have Samuel Arbuckle, and I'm not quite sure what the rate is. I'm thinking that 127 1/3 is probably the number of acres that he has. The range, the township section, this is where his property is. This is an interesting thing. When you get into a land deed, it'll say from this pole so many poles over to this pole to it's very interesting to read land records. Taxes due looks like $2.22 and 8 meals. I have no idea what a meal is at that point in time. I find that very interesting. But the thing is that you're going to go down. Most of your tax records are going to be in alphabetical order, which is always wonderful to have. Now, yeah, and this is the number of acres they have right here. And I don't know what, there's different rates, 1, 2, and 3. So, but all this in here is how many acres of land that they own, that they're going to tax them on. But the nice thing too about tax records is that it gives you a feel for what people are in that area. Now see, they're saying in 1817, 1816, 1815, so their taxes were the same for the same years. Another thing you'll find in tax records is that it'll say, and this one doesn't say it, but it'll say whether they live in that area. I like to go back and forth between the thumbnails and the actual record, because then I can scroll through and I don't have to go through all these pages and fight my way to the next land record or next tax record. Now you'll see heirs is here as well. The reason I love the tax records is because when you have your census records, it's only going to give you 10 years between each census record. With your tax records, you can find out if they're still in the same area or if they're still living with just going through the tax records, because they've got it year by year. It's not every 10 years. So year by year, you're going to know what's going on with a certain person that you're researching. So this is where I find tax records to be very, very important. And it's also fun to see. see what kind of land your ancestors owned. Now, mine is going to be M's, so I'm guessing they're going to be over in here somewhere. Okay, see, we're to the Lepleys, Lewis's. So the very beginning of the M's is here. So, and very interesting here is Thomas McKee. I'm familiar with this Thomas McKee. He's most likely a cousin to my great-grandfather. They both lived in Fayette County, Pennsylvania before coming to Ohio. Thomas McKee lived in Knox County, Ohio from 1808 until about 1820, 1825, when his father and his brothers came and they all settled in Coshocton. So he moved over to Coshocton, which honestly was interesting because that's where his father-in-law was from. So I thought it was interesting that he moved with my grandpa Charles to Knox County, Ohio in the very beginnings, and then ended up in Coshocton once his dad and his brothers came over. And I haven't studied that line well enough to know if possibly he was the first one that came over from Ireland and then his family followed later, or if they were there's actually some McKees in Pennsylvania that also have the first names of his father. So you just never know. Benjamin Leonard, this is another one of my family names. So it's fun to see. Like I say, it's fun to see. He's got 125 acres. Tells you where those acres are. And then he paid $1.87 and 5 meals for his taxes on that land. $7.50 for 500 acres. So it's interesting, first of all, just to see kind of what kind of taxes they were paying. Boy, I wish that's all we were paying for that much property, right? But Thomas McKee is, like I said, he's related. I know through bloodlines, through DNA, that they are related. Plus, I found some other records that just lead me to believe that they are definitely related to my line. Another thing you'll find sometimes with family search is that it'll kind of see how it's kind of freezing up. So what I'll do is I'll go back out of the record and go back into the record. And try to remember what page you were on, because then you'll know to go back to that page. So if you were on, this is page 12, I couldn't seem to get off of page 11. So sometimes that'll unfreeze it. So that's just another little trick. Penalty interest. So for some reason, maybe they see taxes for 1815, so this is 1816. So they paid tax penalties even back then. Another tax penalty here for Neville. Mills, Prather. Okay, here we go. See, we got Charles McKee. He had 160 acres and he paid $3.60 for that 160 acres. So anyway, that's an interesting thing that you can find. You can find whether they are what they're paying taxes on. Now in 1816, I would think that my grandpa Alex would have had taxes, but he didn't. He's not showing in this record. Another thing that they do in the tax records, and I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure that they did do it in 1816, but let's just go towards the end, because sometimes they just had property, personal property taxes for people. But this is looking like it's going into, still going into the same people. So I wish I knew which year they started doing that, but there was a year when they started, and I think it was when they started going into the different townships. So right here, this is all of Knox County. They're not telling you what township they're in or anything, but they're giving you the actual information on where that land was located. And so you could go in and look at the deeds and see what it is. But as the years go on and go by, and let's go now, see here, this is in 1820, and so I figured it was probably in the 20s, because it seems like that's when they started doing the more personal property, but they also started coming up with the townships. So let's see if this is going to give us a township here. Knox County for the year of 1820. This is giving you the Rain Township. So I think this is giving you the, this is the range and these are the township numbers. So look at, Township 181677, and this is the range that they're in. So they're starting to tell you more information about where they're at, but maybe it's around 1824 is when they start breaking up into the townships. See, this is a lot of tax records. A lot. See the difference in maybe 5 or 10 before in 1816, and now they're already in 1820. 4 years later, they've got a lot more people. Resident proprietors, non-resident proprietors. So if you have somebody that's in this non-resident, it means that they own the land and they're paying taxes on it. Van Horn Isaac. This person owns land in Knox County, Ohio, but he's paying his taxes on that land, but he's not living on the land. All the other people that you see here, these are all residents, so therefore they are living in Knox County on their own property. So this is another thing that it gives you information. There's really, as you get into the tax records, you'll find there's quite a bit of information. It'll tell you if you go and find a personal property tax record, it'll tell you how many cows they owned, how many horses they owned. Even if they didn't own land, they owned things. So they might be renting the property, but they had their own personal property, and they're taxed on their own personal property. So tax records can really help you a lot in your research, especially as you're trying to figure out who's who in the family lines, but also just in knowing where they're at and how close they are to each other. Because like if you have 3 Van Buskirks, you've got the Buskirks, you've got this one, and you've got this one. So they're living fairly closely to each other. They both own 160 acres, both William and John. There's just a lot of really good information, like I say, as you go through and glean some of the information that you can find here, and finding that they're a non-resident. A lot of times you'll find the original proprietors. So this guy, these people sold this land to these people. So when you're going into the land records and you're trying to find deeds, it's good to have these names, the people that they bought the land from. Sorry, that looks like Family Search is kind of slowing down here, or else my internet is. But it'll give you a lot of information. So if you're going to go in and try to find the deed to land, you'll be able to see a lot more when you know who they bought it from, because a lot of times it's on the deed records by the name of the person who sold it and then the person that got it. So it's the grantor and the grantee. So a lot of times if you want to go into the grantor, these are the people that would be considered the grantor. So there's a lot of information that you can find, like I said, in tax records. And I find, especially when I was trying to figure out my migration of my McKees from Pennsylvania to Ohio, it really helped me a lot to be able to go into the land records or the tax records, because I didn't have the census records for 1810. So this helped me pin down where they were at the time, and it just gave me some more information that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and it also helps me kind of set those families together. So again, tax records can be a really good source of important things. Again, the grantors are over here, the grantees are over here, so you're going into your deed records. Those are the people that you're looking for. I hope this kind of helped you a little bit on seeing that tax records can be a viable record to go in and find out more about your family members and what their life was like, knowing how much land they owned. I was shocked to find how much land my grandpa Charles owned in Knox County, Ohio. He owned hundreds and hundreds of acres. So it's kind of fun. And then you go, well, dang it, why didn't I get anything from that? So it's a lot of fun. But it also helps you look for other records when you know that they own property, like deed records and so forth. So anyway, hopefully this helps you a little bit. Be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can see all the other tutorials that I'll be putting up, and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I can improve on. It's a learning process, folks. So if there's anything that you're interested in having me go in and do, please be sure and leave me a note and let me know. But for sure, please subscribe to my channel because that's what gets other people to come and see my channel. Appreciate it. Hope you have a good day.